Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom, and today we're going to continue talking about the fountainhead. Or, to be more specific, we're actually going to talk about the author of the fountainhead, Ein Rand. She actually was born in Russia, but later she moved to the United States and wrote her novels there. And, of course, The Fountainhead is one of the first novels she wrote that became successful. We're going to talk about the author herself, Ein Rand. So, hey, I don't have anything else to say here, so let's let the article do the talking. Let's read today's lesson one time. Ein Rand was born to affluent parents in St. Petersburg, Russia in 1905. Though Jewish, her family was largely non-observant, and Rand renounced religion altogether by 14. Rand formulated many of her ideals at an early age, and by the time she was a teenager, she had developed a particular interest in politics. She strongly disagreed with the Bolshevik Party, which came to power in Russia in 1917, and its communist and collectivist ideals. Therefore, after graduating from the University of Petrograd, she obtained a U.S. visa in 1925 and left Russia with no intention of returning. Though Rand had been writing for years, her career as an author began in the U.S. While working as a screenwriter in Hollywood, California, she met Frank O'Connor, whom she married in 1929. Rand continued working as a screenwriter while writing her first novel, We the Living, which was completed in 1934. Based on Rand's life in Russia, the novel was rejected several times and was only published in 1936. She began working on The Fountainhead in 1938, though she also had difficulty finding a publisher. Unlike its predecessor, however, The Fountainhead was hugely successful upon its release in 1943. Though Rand is often associated with conservative and libertarian politics, she rejected both of these trends and started her own Objectivist movement. The Fountainhead embodies Rand's Objectivism, which promotes rational self-interest and individualism while condemning altruism. Each of the novel's characters serves as a personification of her philosophy's main tenets. Rand furthered these arguments in Atlas Shrugged, her last and most ambitious novel. Despite having a mixed reputation, Rand's philosophy and novels still attract a devoted following.
Let's take a look at this. Let's find out a little bit more about Ein Rand. She was born to affluent parents in St. Petersburg, Russia in 1905. Affluent means very wealthy. So she probably had access to a lot of advantages. But as most of you know who study a little bit about history, Russia went through a drastic change and they adopted communism, and it really affected her family. I was listening to someone talking about Ein Rand. He works for their corporation, and he said her parents in particular were afraid for her because she was so outspoken. And if you're outspoken in a communist nation, that government usually puts you in jail or kills you.
Or unless they figure out they can use you, then they'll love you. But in any case, she was born to an affluent family, rich parents, in St. Petersburg, Russia, way back in 1905. And though Jewish, her family was largely non-observant, and Rand renounced religion altogether by 14. So here, I guess it says she's Jewish. So a lot of people ask me that question, even though I don't really know. What is Jewish? Okay, what does it mean to be Jewish? Does that mean you're a race of people, or it's your religion, or whatever? I guess
it's both for them.
I guess it's both, right?
Yeah.
So if you're Jewish, you might be both Jewish as a person, and you might actually practice the Jewish religion or Judaism, as it is officially called. You probably wear a yarmulke and you burn the what is it called? The menorah at Hanukkah and stuff like that, and have various other traditions as well. But it says here that she was non-observant. You could also say she was a non-practicing Jew,
right,
which means culturally she's Jewish, but they don't go to the synagogue. They don't observe those things. They don't really believe in the religion at all. They're just Jewish by race. And then she renounced religion altogether when she was 14. To renounce something just means to reject it and say, you're no longer going to do that thing. You're no longer going to be that thing. So she renounced it. I'm not going to be religious at all. So I guess we could say that she became an atheist when she was 14 years old.
Now, Rand formulated many of her ideals, her principles, things that she believed in at an early age. And by the time she was a teenager, she had developed a particular interest in politics and philosophy. We're going to find out. If you formulate something, guys, you put it together, you create it. You use your brain to come up with something. Maybe you're devising a strategy, or you're formulating a proposal. A formula is what we use when we're doing complex math problems. You know, can you solve this formula? What's the formula for that chemical? That would be the elements, the ingredients that you all put together. She formulated many of her principles, her ideals, things that she believed in quite early. She's pretty young to renounce religion by the age of 14. So she was very, very strong-willed. She had an interesting mind. She strongly disagreed with the Bolshevik Party, which was the party that came along and decided that communism was the way to go. And they came to power in Russia in 1917. It was a big upheaval. A lot of people died during this transition. And then when they took power, the Bolsheviks, communism reigned in Russia. So communism is a political belief that people all share everything. It's a theory that came from Karl Marx, and he felt like class war was very important. You know, the lower classes had to fight the upper classes. This took place in China as well because they followed this communist thought. Collectivism or collectivist ideals is where everybody shares everything equally. Of course, it never happens that way. The leaders always get the big share of everything. And then people who are left outside of that leadership portion get nothing. So it's kind of a tough thing to have to follow. And we've seen China kind of adopt capitalism as a form of business to help their own country.
Yeah, it's weird up there in China what they're doing. They're still communist, but they're also capitalist at the same time. Yeah. Kind of weird. We've also got the word collectivist here, which comes from the concept of collectivism, which is similar to communism. The group has priority over the individual, group ownership and all that kind of stuff. Working together, no one owns anything. We all own it together, stuff like that. But she rejected these ideals. Therefore, after graduating from the University of Petrograd, she obtained a U.S. visa in 1925 and left Russia with no intention of returning. She got a U.S. visa way back in 1925. She obtained it. She got a U.S. visa. So she left Russia for good, and she went to the good old U.S. of A.
Yeah, well, she wanted some freedom. That's why she left. We know that. You can use obtain, as Tom said, like get or acquire or even secure something. So she got a U.S. visa back in 1925 and left Russia. So though Rand had been writing for years, her career as an author began in the U.S. So she started writing at a very young age, but she really didn't pursue a career as an author until she came to the U.S. She worked as a screenwriter in Hollywood, California. That's where she met a guy named Frank O'Connor. He sounds like an Irish man. That's an Irish name for sure, Frank O'Connor. And she married him in 1929. So if you're a non-observant Jew, you don't care if you marry someone who's Christian or, non-Jewish. You can marry whoever you want. But if you're a devout Jew or an observant Jew, of course, you're looking for another Jewish person to marry and then continue to have Jewish kids. So she married this Frank O'Connor in 1929. It took her about 4 years to find her husband.
Okay, and she continued working as a screenwriter while writing her first novel, We the Living, which was completed in 1934. Okay, so yes, indeed, she started off, I guess, writing for movies in Hollywood, but at the same time, she was writing a novel which was entitled We the Living. I guess I'd heard of that. Of course, I haven't read it, but it was completed way back in 1934 when the Great Depression was going on, not only in the United States, but all over the world. And we'll continue talking about that and other novels that she wrote in just a couple of seconds, but we're going to take a break right now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, my name is Tina. 今天我们要来看一下 The Fountainhead 的作者，他的名字叫做 Ein Rand。首先来看到在第一段中间的句子提到 Rand formulated many of her ideals at an early age, and by the time she was a teenager, she had developed a particular interest in politics. 首先我们来看一下 formulate 这个动词有构想跟规划的意思。譬如说你要制定规范，你就可以说 to formulate a regulation。提出一项理论，你也可以说 to formulate a theory。这个 Rand 呢，他年纪轻轻就构想了许多他的 ideals， 他的想法跟理念。后面我们要特别注意这个片语 by the time。到了什么什么的时候，它呢另外一个主要句子常常搭配的是完成式。到了他是青少年的时期呢，他就已经 had developed， 已经发展出对于政治的特殊兴趣。接着来看到这一段的最后一句提到 Therefore, after graduating from the University of Petrograd, she obtained a U.S. visa in 1925 and left Russia with no intention of returning. 在从这个呢 Petrograd 大学毕业之后呢，他就取得了 a U.S. visa 美国的签证，就离开了俄罗斯 with no intention of 就是呢不打算，没有这样子的想法要再回到自己的国家。接着我们来看到在第二段中间的句子提到一刚开始呢，他的作家生涯就是在美国开始，在加州的好莱坞当电影编剧。中间提到 Rand continued working as a screenwriter while writing her first novel, We the Living, which was completed in 1934.在这里提到他在1934年完成的第一本小说叫做 We the Living， 他呢其实同时还是 working as a screenwriter， 还是当作呢是电影编剧的工作为他的本行。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.Welcome back, guys. We're talking about Ein Rand, a very famous writer, author, who also came up with this idea. It's a philosophy of Objectivism. It was a movement that she started. Well, we talked about how she was born to pretty wealthy parents in Russia in 1905. Though her family was Jewish, they really weren't very religious, or as we say, they were non-observant. You can also use the word devout. I mentioned that word earlier. If you're a devout Christian or a devout Jew, you're very religious. You follow the principles or tenets, as we often say, T-E-N-A-N-T. Those are the ideals of that particular religion. Her family wasn't very religious. In fact, Rand decided at the age of 14 that she didn't even believe in God, and she renounced religion, saying, I don't believe any of that stuff. And as a young person, she already had very strong ideas. She also developed an interest in politics. She strongly disagreed with the Bolsheviks who came into power in 1917. They overthrew the government there in Russia and decided that communism was the way to go. and that's when Russia became communist. So after she graduated from university, she was able to get her hands on a visa to the U.S. Back then, it wasn't easy either because the communists didn't want to let anybody leave their country. They had to hold you in their country. You didn't have a lot of freedom. She was lucky to get a visa.
Indeed, and she got that visa. She worked as a screenwriter in Hollywood. She married Frank O'Connor in 1929, and while she was working as a screenwriter, she completed her first novel in 1934. And based on Rand's life in Russia, the novel was rejected several times and was only published in 1936. So she sent the manuscript of the novel to several publishers, but one by one they said, nah, no one's going to read this. We're not going to publish this. Thank you very much. We'll call you if we need you. So they rejected her manuscript. To reject means basically to say no. I asked a girl to dance at the high school dance, and she rejected me. She said, no, I don't want to dance with a creep like you. But in any case here, the novel was rejected. They said no, but finally, I guess somebody decided to take a chance and published her novel 2 years later in 1936.
Well, she began working on The Fountainhead, that's the book we're talking about, in 1938. Though she also had difficulty finding a publisher for Fountainhead, too. A publisher, of course, is someone who takes an author's writing, could be pieces of paper someone's typed on. It could be someone's notebook that they've written their story in longhand, meaning they didn't use any sort of computer or typewriter. That publisher takes that material and then publishes it, makes it available in stores. It could be a magazine, it could be a book, something like that. So she had difficulty finding a publisher. Most new writers do. It's very hard to get your first manuscript accepted. We know that from J.K. Rowling. She was rejected many times. So unlike its predecessor, however, The Fountainhead was hugely successful upon its release in 1943. When a book is released, it starts to sell on the market. You can say the stores start selling it. Predecessor here means whatever came before. If your predecessor at your company has left the company, it just means you replace someone who used to have your job. My predecessor at AMC was a girl whose name, I can't remember her name. But anyway, there was someone before me. Tom's predecessor here was Bill. I used to work with a Bill here. So the person who came before you, who held a job or an office before the current person, is the predecessor.
My goodness, we've been here so long we can't even remember our predecessors. But the predecessor, or the novel that came out before The Fountainhead, did not sell very well, but The Fountainhead was very successful. So unlike its predecessor, The Fountainhead was hugely successful upon its release in 1943. Actually, I think I read somewhere that it really wasn't that successful at first, but it became successful after word of mouth. Hey, did you hear about this new novel? Check it out. It's really cool. And then it was hugely successful. And in the next paragraph, it goes on to say, though Rand is often associated with conservative and libertarian politics, she rejected both of these trends and started her own objectivist movement. Okay, so we've got some terms here. Conservative. There are conservative politicians around the world. Usually, politics are divided into two areas, liberal and conservative, especially American politics. We've also got libertarian, which a lot of people confuse with liberal politics. They are different. Libertarian is basically about no control at all. Wasn't that guy Ryan Paul or something like a libertarian? Even though he's running as a Republican, he was still a libertarian.
Rand Paul.
Rand Paul.
His dad is Ron Paul.
Ron Paul, that's what I was thinking
of.
Yeah,
they're both like, let's get government out of our lives. Yeah. They're much more into, they just don't want any government, and they want people to be able to, control their own lives. They don't want any interference. Conservatives are a little bit more, government's good sometimes, but, typically stay out of stuff. She rejected both of these trends and started her own movement called the Objectivist Movement, which just talks about the belief that certain things, especially moral truths, moral values, the right and wrong, they exist independently of human knowledge or how we perceive it to be. So she wanted to stress that the external, what is really objective and happens externally, is independent of what we're thinking in our own minds. So that's what her movement was about. The fountainhead embodies or embraces her own objectivism. So if it embodies something, it kind of is a good symbol of it. It reflects what she believed herself. To embody something just means kind of gives expression to something that you believe.
Yes, so it embodies that, or it kind of tells us all about her objectivism. Again, that's her own philosophy. She's the person who invented this. And that promotes rational self-interest and individualism, while at the same time it condemns altruism. Okay, rational self-interest, rational here just means being logical, not being hysterical, using reason and things like that. Rational self-interest, promoting yourself, but also being mature about it, not trying to destroy other people in the process. And also individualism, being yourself and not being part of a group. And she doesn't like altruism, which is all about being,
concerned about other people.
Yeah, basically totally selfless, okay?
Yeah.
You are totally concerned about the well-being of others. Everybody's equal. We're all in this together. Nobody should stick ahead. We should all be concerned about our fellow human beings. But of course, as we know in modern times, no one is capable of that.
Well, I wanted to give an example of someone who is altruistic. That's the adjective form. That's Mother Teresa. You know, she went around her whole life just trying to help the poor and the needy. So Rand didn't think that was a good idea. She thought that you needed to be concerned about yourself. So she wasn't really into selfless service, let's say that. Each of the novel's characters serves as a personification of her philosophy's main tenets. There's that word tenant, principles, ideas of something. If you're a personification of something, it just means that person actually is a good representation of some of what she believes, some of these ideals. It's like she's taken her philosophy and turned it into a person, personification of something. Rand furthered these arguments in her book called Atlas Shrugged, which is her fourth and final book. It was also very, very long.
Yeah, to shrug here kind of means to shrug your shoulders, to raise your shoulders or something, which means that you don't really know.
Or
Do you know the
care.
answer to this question? Whatever, you raise your shoulders. But in this particular case, I guess it means Atlas was rejected. And that was her last novel, but it was her most ambitious one. It's over 1,000 pages long, and I guess it's kind of difficult to read as well. Ambitious means you're really trying to accomplish a lot.
True.
If you're ambitious in life, of course, you want to be successful and you join all the clubs and get straight A's in school and get the best job, stuff like that. You're very ambitious. And despite having a mixed reputation, Rand's philosophy and novels still attract a devoted following. So if you go to bookstores anywhere, on some of the shelves at the front of the store, you're bound to see an Ein Rand novel sitting there waiting for you to purchase.
Yeah, her books are considered classics. You can find them anywhere. And if you're willing to get started, good for you, because they're quite long, some of them. Okay, guys, we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher, and then we'll be back.
接着我们来看到呢，在1938年 Rand 开始写了这本《源泉》这本书。在第二段的倒数第二个句子提到 She began working on the Fountainhead in 1938, though she also had difficulty finding a publisher. 其实呢，还一直在找一个出版商的这个问题上面碰到了麻烦。在英文里面我们讲到 have difficulty doing something, 也就是做某件事情有困难，而这里的 publisher 指的就是出版商。 后面的句子写着 Unlike its predecessor, however, the Fountainhead was hugely successful upon its release in 1943. 在这里的 predecessor 指的就是前任或前辈，指的呢就是他前面所写的这些书。跟他前面所写的书不一样的是，这本书一发行就极为成功。我们这里看到的是 was hugely successful， 用 upon 后面再加名词，就是代表着一怎么样就怎么样，而这里的 release 当作名词，就是指的是书籍的发行。接着呢，来看到第三段的第二个句子写着 The Fountainhead embodies Rand's Objectivism, which promotes rational self-interest and individualism while condemning altruism. 在这里我们看到几个专有名词，这本书源泉呢，它 embody 就是有体现或使某个东西具体化，它其实体现了兰德的客观主义。我们都知道形容词 objective 有客观的意思， ISM 结束呢就是有什么样子的主义，所以这本书体现了它的客观主义。再补充说明什么叫做 Objectivism， 补充说明它 promotes， 它所提倡的是一种 rational self-interest and individualism， 理性的呢自我的利己以及呢个人的主义，而在此同时呢，它谴责的是利他主义。 condemn 则是有谴责责难的意思，而 altruism 则是我们常听到的利他主义。最后我们来看到句子提到 Despite having a mixed reputation, Rand's philosophy and novels still attract a devoted following. 尽管呢毁誉参半，我们这里提到的是 a mixed reputation， 他的哲学跟小说呢仍然吸引着一批死忠的追随者。这里的 devoted 当作形容词，有忠实的意思，而 following 则是当作名词，指的是一批追随者的意思。 OK， 以上就是今天的课文讲解，谢谢收听。
Well, that's it for day 2, guys. In our next lesson, as we always do, we're going to talk about the themes in the book, The Fountainhead. Talk about what Ein Rand was trying to communicate, what she was trying to get across. We hope you'll join us then. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.